Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Got a Case of Wanderlust podcast. I'm your host, Lydia, and today I'm honored to be joined by Petra, who was born and raised in Thailand, but also calls South Korea home after taking more than a dozen trips here. Petra has also lived in Brazil and has traveled throughout the US and is currently based in Washington, D.C. as a digital nomad. So I'm very excited to dive into Petra's cultural based travel expertise in these countries. So, with that, welcome to the show, Petra.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So, I always like to start off the show with one question, which is what sparked your wanderlust?
Um, that is a complicated one because I have never thought about it. I think um back in 2021, all of a sudden all the work in Hollywood was getting worse. Right? The working conditions and everything. And I, for the first time in my life, started thinking about what else I could do if I was not in film. And the answer came to me then that even when I was working in Hollywood, I was not really working in Hollywood to work in Hollywood. I was kind of hopping from job to job to job until I have enough money so I could go on the next trip. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. So I really like traveling. It's just that I went to school to work in film. So that was when I first realized, but I have always taken trips. Even when I was younger, I would go on these package tours to Europe with my parents, like the kind that takes you to 5 countries within 10 days. And I always really loved it. The only problem was those trips were way too fast. So when I ask myself, what exactly did I learn culturally about those places that I visited, I learned nothing. But also because I was a child, I didn't care about anything else but food.
That's me now.
Yeah. I still care a lot about food, but now I pay attention to the culture too.
Right. So I would love to learn more about the culture in all these places you've lived in. So I know that you grew up in Thailand and you've lived there for how many years?
24. So
24
I lived there
years.
until I graduated college, and then I was working there for 4 years, and I moved to the States for my master's.
Okay, so I would love to just learn like what aspects of Thai culture that you really just appreciate looking back since it was your whole entire childhood.
Um, I ironically, I actually did not like Thailand when I was growing up at all.
Oh, wow.
And it took me 28 years in total to come to terms with the fact that I'm a Thai person, come to terms with my identity and my background. So I think maybe that's why I love it a little bit too extremely today, because it took such a long time for me to come around to it. Um, so I would say the thing that I appreciate the most about my culture would actually apply to Korea and Japan as well. But I think, um, you know how in English, the way you talk to your uncle is the same way you talk to your friends, or the way
Yes.
you talk to a stranger is the same way that you talk to your mom?
Yes.
We have speech levels in these three Asian cultures, and I think it wires your brain up differently. How you have to be more polite and more considerate to strangers, which means that when you are walking on the street in Thailand or in Korea or in Japan, chances that you're gonna get verbally or physically assaulted by someone is very low
Hmm.
because that language conditions people to be less likely to mess with strangers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the language has it has different what's it called? Like conjugations based off the age level or the type of
Conjugations
familiarity.
in Japanese and Korean, yes. In Thai, it's not conjugations, it's just a way we speak. Um,
Mm, okay.
yeah, and the honorifics and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that is the aspect that I appreciate the most for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting how language can totally transform the way that we kind of perceive the world, how we behave. And I wish I knew more about linguistics, but it's a very like complex sort of subject. I took a linguistics 101 and there was so much around that whole area.
I
Um,
think then
yeah.
you might know more about linguistics than I do.
Honestly, that class I totally like just wanted to pass. Like it was the type of thing where you learn the information to do the exams, the homework, and then you just forget about it. But
Oh dear.
yeah, yeah, college in the US. um so I'm really fascinated as to why maybe you had identity struggles growing up because I can totally relate as a Chinese American, just not fitting in with those around me and just wanting to be different because of that. So I'm curious as to what your experience was like, as to, why you weren't comfortable maybe as a Thai person.
Yeah, this is gonna sound weird, but every time like Asian Americans tell me about their struggles in America, I would tell them that I felt the opposite. I felt like I was born in the wrong country. I was born in the wrong culture. So when I went to school, I was a little bit too outspoken, a little bit too different. So I couldn't fit in with my friends. So I was bullied growing up just for being me, just for being different. Every time I said something, every time I expressed my opinions that goes against what the rest of my friends believe, they would attack. So my experience of Thailand was every time I left my house, I was not safe.
Hmm.
So yeah. But now that I moved to America, everything is like perfect. I don't have to be anyone different. And I made a lot of friends. Meanwhile, I have almost no friends left in Thailand because we all just fell out of contact because we never got along in the first place. But of course, when I go back as an adult and traveling around the country, of course, I make new connections, I make new friends as who I am now. It's like adults are more wonderful in that way. We accept the differences and stuff like that. So Thailand is wonderful, but not when I was growing up. So I was like, I hate this place. I wish I was not Thai, blah, blah, blah. And then there was always that stigma as well that came with Thailand before. I think people are becoming more aware of what it means to travel to Thailand. But before the tourism boom in Thailand, people used to go to Thailand just for sex tourism.
Mm.
And like, because when I started working on film sets after college, I was always working on foreign films, which means I was working with a lot of people coming from the UK, from the US, from the Netherlands, from I don't know, Hungary. Um, and they would have these like weird, twisted ideas of Thai women and what we like and what we don't like and stuff like that. And they kind of just plaster that on us without asking us anything. And when I knew how to speak English really well, they would be like, "How come you speak English so well?" And I was like, "Because I learned in school."
Mm.
So because of that, I think it also influenced how I started hating on my identity even more when I moved to the States because in my mind, I was always afraid of what people was thinking about me as a Thai woman. Now that is fading, thank God.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you found your place in the United States. That's
Thank you.
something that I wish for everyone to just feel comfortable where they are. Everyone deserves that. And um, yeah, just echoing what you said about being stereotyped and the microaggressions that you face just based off how you look like, how
Yeah,
people perceive you and what perception they have just based off, whatever country or the country they think you're from. It could be a lot, but yes, I think it's slowly changing, but there's still a lot of progress to do and so much that the media can work on as far as positive representation of especially all Asian countries. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I agree.
So I'm glad that now you can look back on Thailand and you have appreciation for it now. And I'm assuming you've traveled back there with a different perspective that you had growing up. So, like, what is it like to travel to Thailand now? And, like, what are some recommendations of places you would recommend
Oh,
visitors to go to?
yeah. I like to recommend places like Sukhothai to people. It's actually like Ayutthaya. Have you heard of Ayutthaya by any chance?
Hmm. No.
Probably not, unless you've been. Yeah, if you've most people who have done some sort of research on where to go in Thailand, they would absolutely know Ayutthaya. It's our second historic capital
Okay.
city, and Sukhothai was the first, so it's technically older, but people don't know it. I think their tourism board is doing a pretty bad job at promoting that province. Because for some reason, people come to Thailand when they want to see temple ruins, they just go to Ayutthaya and nobody tells about Sukhothai, which makes it amazing because you go there and there are very little tourists and the locals are still nice because they haven't been, you know, conditioned to hate visitors yet.
Hmm.
But basically, Sukhothai is a very good place to slow travel in if that is your thing. Like you can stay there for weeks, stay there for a month or so. There is this homestay program a little bit outside of the city that you can go to and book a night or two, stay with a local family and they make you breakfast and dinner. And you can take a tour around the village and they show you how fabrics are made traditionally and stuff like that. It's pretty amazing.
That seems like an amazing experience. And how do you find these homestays? Is there a platform online?
They only have a Facebook page and you would have to message them. But because nobody else on the planet speaks our language, most Thai people will know how to message you in English. So like, I don't know how we can do this. Maybe I can send you the link afterwards and you can blast it out on your platforms or something.
Definitely.
But
I could put that in the show notes.
yeah, but messaging that Facebook page is the only way you can book.
Okay, so it's a little local secret. Thank you so much for sharing.
Very local. I don't think I saw a single foreigner there. It was just the Thai tourists from other provinces. So like if you go, you might become the first cool foreigner.
No, no, I think it's so important to have these local experiences to make sure that you're not just going to a place, like living your best life and then leaving and potentially just leaving like a negative impact. Like you always want to try to give back and just
Hmm.
learn from the places you visit because that's ultimately why we travel to different countries. Like if you wanted to not learn about different cultures, you would stay in the US and go to a resort or
Yeah, just
something, I
stay
think.
home.
Yeah, I think.
You
But
know, if you're not gonna give back to the places you visit, at the very least, just leave no trace. But
100%.
that.
And so over tourism in Thailand, I'm sure has skyrocketed since you grew up living there. So what are
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
some other ways besides homestays that we can, I don't know, be a more responsible traveler there?
I think slow travel has a lot to do with the mindset. So you don't necessarily have to travel slowly to become a slow traveler. It's just your intention of going to this country and instead of getting completely wasted at the full moon party and leaving all the trash on the beach the next morning, you choose to go to UTI to learn about the culture. And because you choose to learn about the culture, you automatically treat the locals more respectfully than anyone else usually would. Or like instead of going to KFC because that is the only thing you know how to eat, you try maybe hole in the wall restaurants where you see only the locals going and not a lot of foreigners. And that is another way that you can give back to the locals. Stuff like that, which my readers and my followers have been doing, which is amazing. I think we're seeing more of that demographics now in travel. So
Yeah,
I
yes, I think supporting like local restaurants is one of the top like tips about how to give back to the local economy instead of going to these fast food chains where the money is just not going to stay in that destination. It's
nope,
not helping
going back to the
anyone.
US.
It's not helping anyone going to KFC.
Yeah, but
Um,
I'm gonna say this. The KFC wings, we have these spicy KFC wings in Thailand that are delicious. But please don't go there. Maybe go there your last night before the airport or something like that. But actually, no, that's gonna be sad. Go there the second half of your trip, just for once, just to know what the spicy wings in KFCs of Thailand taste like. But don't make that your main menu.
yes, don't make that your entire like trip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how fast food does change depending on the country, and
Yeah,
it's usually better outside the U.S. Like all food though.
I agree.
And then so South Korea is apparently your second home, as you say.
Yeah.
So why have you traveled so frequently to this country?
I was a K-pop fanatic in high school.
Oh my gosh, same.
Really? We're gonna talk about that later. But I don't know if we're gonna connect though, because I was a K-pop fanatic from the age of 13 to 18, and then I stopped. So everything I know about K-pop is the first and second generations.
So
Dear
like,
Lord.
okay. Older K-pop.
Yeah. So because, I was a fanatic and I was 15, 16 years old, I kept asking my mom if we could go back. So we kept going back for 13, 13 times. 13, 14 times. Yeah, actually, because I think, growing up with K-pop during the most like transformative years of my life, I think it has become kind of like a default from my mom and I. When we want to go hang out somewhere that is not Thailand, we would go back to Korea because it makes us feel so comfortable. So we kept going back even after my K-pop days. Yeah, but that totaled to 13 times. And then the 14th time I went for the first time on my own without my mom. And I stayed for 2 months, um, recovering my very rusty Korean 2 years ago. Yeah. And then the last two times I actually just went in October.
Wow, I heard that's the best time to visit, like the fall season.
I would say so. I interestingly have never been in spring yet.
Ooh,
I
okay.
have never seen the cherry blossoms. That's why I haven't written a blog post about it.
Okay. I would love to experience that in South Korea as well as Japan.
Oh, yes. Me too. I have to go back to Japan. I was there for, I think, a week, traveling the whole country within the week. I was like, no, not gonna do that again ever.
Yeah, that it's a pretty massive country as far as what you could see to do in a week.
The culture is so deep as well, which I admittedly know nothing about as of now, but I would like to go back and spend a year there because I want
Mm,
to speak Japanese as well.
yes, that'd be amazing. Um, so we can't talk about Thailand and South Korea without discussing their cuisines.
Mm,
So I'm like obsessed with any and all Asian food, but particularly Korean and Thai. I had a whole phase, especially of Korean. So
mm.
if you could pick your favorite dishes from each cuisine, what would they be?
For Thai cuisine, oh, complicated. So the Thai dish that I actually like is both Thai and Lao. But it's the papaya salad. So most people don't know this, but there are two versions of papaya salad in Thailand. Well, there are actually like 10, but the two main ones are the Thai version and the Lao version. And you can get both these versions at both countries. So both countries, if you go and order a papaya salad in Laos, they would ask you Thai version or Lao version. And if you go ask for papaya salad in Thailand without specifying, they will ask you the same thing. I actually like the Lao version. I
Hmm.
think it tastes better. But to not be controversial, I'm just gonna say I like pad kapao, which is holy basil pork. You call it basil pork in the US because holy basil does not exist in the US or outside of Thailand, I think. But holy basil is a different vegetable and it smells and tastes completely different. So when you're in Thailand, you'll have to try that.
Huh. Okay, yeah, I've never heard of this. It's a vegetable?
It's a vegetable. You can Google it. Holy basil. I think
Okay.
India has it too, probably, but I have never had Indian food that smelled like holy basil before, but it originated in that region.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love how all these like tropical regions have just such like exotic or just very different produce that I'm obsessed with trying different fruits and vegetables.
Yeah,
um,
I think we have a lot of weird things. And for Korean cuisine, I would pick I just like everything. Jesus, I'm such a foodie. I um hmm. Okay. I would say I like kupap, which is the rice soup.
hmm.
It's a Busan dish. So it's a little bit more boring than say kimchi jjigae or um Korean barbecue, I would say, because it's just this almost tasteless bowl of soup and you eat it with rice and it has pork in it. But the thing is, if you go to a really good cookbap place and they know what they're doing, it's amazing. Even though it's almost tasteless, it's just there's this very subtle hint of pork broth that you can smell when you're eating. And also there's a technique. There's this onion dip that comes on the side, and you would, instead of just eating the soup and the pork, you would take out the pork, dip it in the onion dip, and then eat it with rice, and then you drink the soup after, and it's amazing.
Sounds like comfort food just to the max.
Yeah, it is comfort food, 100%.
I'm hungry now. Okay, so how does the street food compare between those countries? If you had to choose, which country has better street food?
Controversial. Controversial question. I I think they're very different. Um, oh God. I can't choose. They're too different.
Okay, if you can't choose, then what are maybe like the must try street foods in each country?
In Korea, tteokbokki. The rice cakes, spicy rice cakes. And in Thailand, any like pork on a stick you see, like pork on a stick sold with sticky rice. That's really good. But we have all sorts of things on sticks on the streets, right? In Thailand, we have pork, we have chicken, we also have chicken hearts for the Latinos listening out there. And we have chicken liver, stuff like that. But basically, anything that you see, any barbecue on a stick that you see on the streets of Thailand, it would be good. But we also have this sweet street food, which is like a mini coconut pancake, and they sold it in pairs. We call it kanom krok. So coconut milk, dip into a hole until it burns a little bit down there, and then they put toppings on top. So traditionally, it has no topping at all. So it's like literally eating pancakes made of coconut milk. But nowadays, we sometimes put corn on it. Sometimes we put, I don't know, taro, sometimes ube on top of it. And it's amazing.
That sounds so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on. um, as much as I would love to stay talking about food, I feel like that would just take up like
We
two.
can chat about food later after this.
Yes. Okay, so you've also lived in Brazil, so let's briefly just discuss why you moved to Brazil and what are maybe some cultural shocks you experienced after moving there.
Um, First of all, I moved there just to spend 3 months acquiring Portuguese because I went not speaking a drop of Portuguese, and my goal was to leave speaking Portuguese. And like I'm I'm not crazy, okay? So I think I knew I could do that in 3 months because I already spoke Spanish. That's why. But I was like, yeah, let's just max out my visa-free period and just make this happen. So I was in school for every single weekday, and then I used the weekend to travel and the weekday afternoons. so that I could write more blog posts about it. And not a lot of culture shocks actually, because surprisingly, Brazilians are very similar to Thais.
Really?
Yeah, we have a lot of very similar things for no good reason. It's a little bit crazy because we're on complete different sides of the planet and we've never had contact historically, but we do things similarly. Stuff like we would juice sugar cane and drink it cold on the streets from carts. I was like, what the hell is that? What the hell is this? Are we not the only people who do this? And they're like, you guys do it too? Are we not the only people doing this? I'm like, nope.
Maybe it's just the climatic similarities.
Probably, yeah. But I think it takes a lot of coincidences for people on opposite sides of the planet to experience the same thing and come up with the same solutions. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
interesting.
specific. Yeah.
Okay.
So no culture shock. The only thing that shocked me was I got a lot of cautions about how dangerous this country is before I went, so I almost canceled the trip. And then I went there and it was actually not bad at all. Like you just couldn't walk around with your phone in your hand because people will snatch it. But that's the biggest thing. Like throughout my 3 months, apart from someone trying to take my phone once in Sao Paulo, nothing else happened. I was really happy and healthy and made a lot of friends. I love
Oh,
that place.
amazing. Yeah, I have heard that phone stealing is a big issue in Brazil.
Yeah, but that's the only thing.
Okay. Well, I love to hear that. So just some rapid fire questions to close off this episode. So first is, what is a special place in your heart?
South Korea.
Okay, lovely. And then what is a memorable meal you've had when traveling?
um, oh, these are hard. I would say, mm, why am I blanking out, man? I think it's because you said it's rapid fire, and I was like, oh God, and my brain just froze. Um, when traveling, I it must be Brazil. Yeah, it was in Brazil. Um, Ironically, sorry, Brazil, but it was not Brazilian food. So I was having Brazilian food for a month and a half and nothing else because I don't go to KFCs, I don't go to fast food chains. So I was having just Brazilian food and I was craving spicy food big time. And then I went to Sao Paulo for the weekend and I went into this ramen restaurant in Liberdade, which is the Japanese community there. And they had this spicy ramen. And the first moment I had it, I was like, yes. It was just that craving because I eat very spicy food, but Brazilian food, especially in Rio de Janeiro, is not spicy at all. So after a month and a half, I was like, I needed that.
Mm, that that is also so relatable. When I was in Mexico for a month, like the first maybe couple weeks I was there, all I was eating was Mexican food just because you want to experience the local cuisine. So
Mhm.
that's what you do. But honestly, Mexican cuisine, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just a lot of like repetitive ingredients, I think. And so and so I got sick of the corn. And so towards the end of my trip, I just wanted like anything besides Mexican food.
No, actually, I knew I was missing out on something when I was running it through my brain earlier. One of the most special meals that I had also was in Mexico City in this nopal farm that we went to. I had my first taco con nopales that we made from scratch with this cooking program that we joined. And it was amazing. And like throughout my 1 month living in Mexico, I kept having Mexican food and I could never get tired of it because I think there are more ingredients than people realize. I think if you really go deep into it, there are a lot of things that you can try. So I disappointed. And I would say you have to go back and do everything all over again because Mexican
Okay.
food is in Mexico only, not in America.
Yes. I will give it a second chance. I think like the food poisoning that I had for like like 2 weeks almost. I don't know. It was honestly
Okay.
like the longest time, so that probably like tainted my experience with the
I'm
cuisine.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely did. Oh
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry.
It happens to everyone, I guess. It's the rite of passage as a traveler. So, last question is, what is a destination you want to go to?
Japan.
Okay.
Japan. I want to go back there because I was 16 when we went also, on top of everything going so quickly. So I didn't care about anything else. I only wanted Japanese sweets. I literally remembered nothing. Like people would be asking me, "Oh, you went to Japan once. Did you go to Kyoto?" And I was like, I don't know."
How old were
That
you?
was how, that was how little attention I was paying to everything else.
So you were
Like
just a little kid. I mean,
15, 16, so
oh,
not
okay.
little,
Okay.
but I didn't care, being a
Hmm.
teenager. I was like, when's the next ice cream we can have?
Yeah, you just like you don't have a full appreciation when you travel
Yeah,
maybe with your parents. It's just
yeah,
completely different
not at
experience.
all.
Yeah.
Not at all. You were just like going along. You don't remember what's the next city you're going to. You just remember, oh, it's a new city, and oh, the ice cream is really nice here, or like the chocolate is better here than in the last city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, where can we find you on all the socials and whatnot?
Socials is complicated. So I am about to start a new work Instagram because this current Instagram, I managed to grow it a little bit, but I started it when I knew nothing about the algorithm or marketing or anything else. I only know how to make films. So I think I wrecked it. So I'm about to start a new one in 2025. It's going to go out under the handle Polyglot Petra. But I'm waiting for Instagram to release that old handle to me so that the new IG could use it. But you can always find me on my blog, polyglotpetra.com. That is where I am. That is my main thing, actually. IG is like just a sidekick that I use to promote the blog. So, yeah, the website is the main thing.
Okay, I'll leave that in the show notes. And once again, thank you so much for your time today, Petra. It was really great chatting with you.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you so much for listening to the Gotta Case Wanderlust podcast. Again, my name is Lydia, and you can find me on social media in the About section of this podcast. Please rate and review if you found value or insight from this, and I hope to see you in the next episode.